business. This also means that we employ tactics that businesses employ. I mentioned FUD earlier. Let me talk about fire hoses. There was a great article about 10 years ago in Fortune magazine talking about Pepsi and Coke. You know the rivalry between Pepsi and Coke, which has sort of shifted quite a bit. The marketing head from Coke said something to the effect that if I had a fire hose and the guy from Pepsi, and Pepsi was on the other side of the room, I would put that fire hose in their mouth and blow them out of the water. That's how friggin' competitive we are with them, okay? So I'm not saying that we have to walk around with fire hoses everywhere, but there's got to be some kahuna, some testosterone going on when we look at the competitive landscape and how people are smearing us and spamming us, etc., etc. So we have to think like business people. And also, one of the reasons I'm talking so fast is I want to get, it's part of the shtick here, that I want to get you thinking that we got to move in internet speed. We got to pick it up the pace, big time, big time. Problem is we have people that are moving more in slow motion because they have to check with the government if there's a mikraz or not, because they deal with red tape, because they have to wait if there's a tekken for this person, not a tekken for this person, because they have to call Jerusalem before they can get approval to say an obvious thing. It's dysfunctional. The current system of the bureaucracy is built for not even 1948. It's built for the late 1700s. It's built for the time of Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin when they were ambassadors in France. But those days are gone. Essentially, people abroad have to be communications people. So what do I suggest? Next. How can we possibly do this? I'm going to go through some audacious things in a second. I'll finish in like 5, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. 10 minutes? 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Let me tell you a little story. This is great. Certain things with clients stick with you. I'm a client service guy. I'm a people pleaser. Most Israelis are not people pleasers. Hence, that's a great thing when you can walk around and say, "Ma akhbar li, mi ata bichlal?" There's some strength in that. That's empowering. That's why Israelis can change the world and have great businesses and scientists, etc., etc. But there's a downside to that about not being people pleasers. So let me get back to this story. So I have this client, I'm a people pleaser, with this client called Viewpoint. They do rich content for internet advertising, all kinds of dynamic stuff on the back end. The CEO, who has since left, but the CEO, a guy named Jay Amato, did wonderful things there. And he was talking about him. He identified his role as the tidy bowl man. He fixes and cleans up what other people have done. Get it? The messes other people have made, he fixes up. So he said, when I came to this company, things were so screwed up that I would go and propose ideas. And I would always get the same response, by and large. People would say either A, we tried that and it didn't work, or B, we couldn't possibly do that. So he said, in terms of him revamping the company, he only focused on 2 areas. Do you know what your areas they were? We tried that and it didn't work, or we couldn't possibly do that. So what I want to do here is focus on things, how can we possibly do this? I would argue we could, and we can, if we want to. Okay? One is by making economic and political sense. Get this. Sending 50% of the shlichim in the next 5 years back to Israel for retraining and restationing in the virtual world. Now, I will have death threats on my life walking out here by the bureaucracy and saying such a thing. But we know it's true, and they know it's true. I'm not saying that they don't play a role. What I am saying is shlichim is an emissary, someone that's sent from Israel to be abroad.
Shlichim mainly work within the Jewish community, so...
Not just the Jew. When I say shlichim, I mean a shaliach for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Tourism, Sochnut, all the way down the line. What I'm saying is, does anyone have a rough idea how much that costs the country to send someone to America? One person, let's say to be the Economic Council in Atlanta. Does anyone know? Anyone have an idea? How much do you think it costs the country? What? A little in between. My last, what I heard was about $600,000 a year for one person. Now they didn't estimate in the States last year. or not last year, a couple of weeks ago, how much it costs to send an American soldier to Iraq for a year. And that's around the $300,000 mark. This is twice that. Because you have the family, and you have the schools, and you have the rent, and the et cetera, et cetera. So it's a lot of fucking money, okay? So my point would be, let's really adapt to the virtual world. Let's make some changes that are going to be more efficient and give us more ROI and bang for the buck. There still have to be people on the ground. Some of them stay, others of them come in. So that's a big idea. And again, not going to win me many friends here. But I hope in your group it will. By grooming the best in Israel's civil service, not on vetek, but on merit. You guys know vetek, right? That's seniority.
This is the point where you're being thrown out.
Yeah, this is where you're actually right. What's your name?
Rome.
Rome. Yeah, this is where I'm going to be thrown out. Because it's all about doing time, bro. It's all about how much time you did. It's not about how good you are. It's not a meritocracy. It's all about time. That's another sign of why the system is dysfunctional. That's another reason why we bring in sort of private sector thinking, and the good survive and other people don't go, get kicked off the bus. By identifying and promoting the best private people already on the ground in each specialization, in each geography. I'm talking about a term here of like naming roving ambassadors, but giving them some authority to speak and giving them a title that they don't currently have. With the media, less with the blogosphere, but the media titles are so important. Here's a former client of mine who, is articulate, presentable, handsome,
No, I'm just loving the title. Roving Ambassador to Route 128.
Okay. Right.
Wait, explain what Route 128 is.
So Route 128 is the center of technology in the Boston area. And it's like the Silicon Valley, or here the Silicon Wadi. So Arel Margalit runs JVP. If you don't know him, did I introduce you to him? He's a great guy.
He spoke, we heard him speaking.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So a real innovator. Imagine Arel Margalit, in perfect flawless English from Columbia University, is Israel's roving ambassador, bimkom, in place of Ezeshu Shaliach. Some of the shlichim are excellent, by the way. Talking to you. But many of them need to be replaced. By speaking local tongues, speak Arizonian, Alaskan, Azerbaijani. In other words, focusing on niche markets that we really speak literally and figuratively their language. Now this is a big one. This is one, now if I'm worried about death threats here, when I get off the plane in New York, then I really have to be worried about death threats. Let me read this to you. By disbanding and merging the Hasbara industry into a larger funded national marketing strategy and instituting term limits for leaders at Jewish organizations. Term limits. Some of these people, and they're fine people, I've worked with them. But I would argue the time has arrived to let people like Aaron rise to the surface. And if you've been in power longer than Hosni Mubarak, for you to cede control and Olech Habayta from. And you know who you are. I don't think it's going to happen naturally. I mean, I'm 43. So my days are, I'm in between them and Aaron, but there's no way someone like me would ever have a chance. But you guys, many people in you, will have a chance to be those new leaders. By creating a birthright-like mission, but much, much bigger. I'm going to make an audacious comparison at the end to give you a sense of the best way that I would refute those that say, oh, we can't do this. We can't create a new marketing organization. Marco, הוא לא מכיר את המציאות, הוא סתם אמריקאי, הוא הגיע כאן כדי זה וזה. No. We'll see. I'm going to throw an analogy that I hope you guys like. Next slide.